So I was recently invited to submit an article on the topic of defining self-hypnosis, and this was for the inclusion in the online encyclopedia of hypnosis and suggestion, which is something that's going to be hosted by the International Society of Hypnosis. These are the people responsible for, and perhaps the most important hypnosis specific peer-reviewed academic journal. That's the International Journal of Clinical and Experimental Hypnosis. And the encyclopedia, it's currently being led by Devon Terhune, and aims to provide a resource where researchers, clinicians, members of the general public can read reliable, accessible introductions to topics concerning hypnosis and suggestion. And my entry, our submission, with my colleague Dr. Ben Paris, has pointed out, that there's a real challenge with regards to defining self-hypnosis, because the waters are somewhat muddied. But back in 2005, for example, the American Psychological Association, the APA, they altered their definition of hypnosis to include self-hypnosis, which they described as administering hypnotic procedures on one's own. And similarly, as far back as the 70s, Roosh had stated that the self-hypnosis is intentionally performed by the subject without substantial real-time guidance by a hypnotist. Now, what Roosh meant by substantial is unclear, but I think it is clear how a hypnotist could play more or less of a role in hypnosis. A hypnotist might guide the process minimally, or via an audio recording, for example. They might leave written instructions to be followed, like as with the inventory of self-hypnosis by Shaw and Eason, for example. Or the hypnotizee might be responsible for directing and regulating the entire hypnosis experience themselves, as myself and Ben Paris have been advocating in our recent meta-analysis and narrative review publications. Now, at what point this reduced role of the hypnotist means hypnosis becomes self rather than hetero-hypnosis is unclear. And further muddying of the waters, so to speak, comes from clinical instantiations of self-hypnosis that include hetero-hypnosis experience as a precursor to self-hypnosis, or hetero-hypnosis delivered suggestion for self-hypnosis, or teaching self-hypnosis as an adjunct to hetero-hypnosis. These are all things that happen in the clinical environment. In our systematic review of clinical applications of self-hypnosis, we noted and revealed wide-ranging definitions and methodological approaches as far as self-hypnosis was concerned. Now, muddying the waters still further are definitions of hetero-hypnosis, for example, such as the latest APA official definition by Gary Elkins and colleagues, that highlights the active role of the self. So, for example, stating the deliberate focusing of attention, or the deliberate disabling of metacognition. Thus, all hetero-hypnosis could be considered self-hypnosis. Attempting to dissociate self and hetero-hypnosis could be folly, trudging through the sludge with limited gain. Now, despite this sort of confusion, some have argued that hetero and self-hypnosis are entirely separate entities. They involve phenomenologically different experiences, and that the existence of one is not dependent upon the other. Erika Fromm's substantial body of work in the 1980s, for example, took that position. We've argued that any reported differences could be accounted for by methodological choices that encouraged different types of experiences. So is there any way out of this muddle? We've highlighted that there are few direct empirical comparisons of self and hetero-hypnosis, and perhaps that reflects the difficulty of dissociating the two. And we've indicated that perhaps more research is required if a dissociation of the two is sought. It's worth me stating as well that as our publications have shown, even when self-hypnosis is wholly other-less, that is, with absolutely no one else involved at all, there's a little difference in the efficacy of self and hetero-hypnosis, that they appear to be as effective as each other. In our publication earlier this year, we suggested that by highlighting the important role of the self in hetero-hypnosis, we might graduate to conceive of hypnosis to be more clearly self-directed, more self-regulated. We've even argued that evidence indicates that self-hypnosis might be more potent when it's taught as an entirely self-directed exercise. So whether self and hetero-hypnosis are ever shown to be dissociable, that the lack of involvement of another person adds a level of flexibility to hypnosis, permitting hypnosis to be imported into a range of situations in one's life. And hypnosis then becomes a skill that can be practiced and improved upon. That also has some useful byproducts. In particular, it removes the perception of hypnosis being mind control from another, and it contributes to enhanced self-efficacy, which is generally tended to be proven as a good thing. So that's it. It's an interesting debate with some muddied waters, as I've laboured here, and I'd welcome your thoughts. Best wishes.